Deep Rock Galactic is a peaceful game about mining, or at least it is right now, but it has the ability to change its tone very quickly, and so all of a sudden...
Combat positions, the swarm's here. Incoming enemies is practically eradicated, and you're still alive. Well done.
I would define Deep Rock Galactic as a mix between first-person shooter and exploration game. As you just saw, the game has a tendency to swing between combat and more relaxing mining segments, although depending on the mission of your choice, you may find yourself doing more of one than the other. When playing alone, you get a robotic companion named Bosco, who I'll talk about later, but when you're playing with friends, you can play with up to 3 other people. There are also 4 different classes you can play. Driller, for digging tunnels and clearing obstacles, Gunner, for open combat, Engineer as a support class, and Scout, who does exactly what his name implies. They each have slight variations, but they all have a primary weapon, secondary weapon, navigation tool, and some other utility. A round will typically look something like this. First, you'll get dropped in by a drop pod, and you'll be given a primary and secondary objective. You can get more objectives later in the mission if something happens, like an asteroid crashes down or there's a virus infection in the area. Completing the secondary objective is optional and gives you extra resources and money. Typically this is something like collect X amount of some plant or mineral. But the primary objective is mandatory in order to complete the mission and summon back the drop pod. Most missions will have you accompanied by the mule, which is basically a minecart that follows you and carries your stuff for you. When the primary objective is completed, the mule will open a button that allows you to summon back the drop pod, although in some missions, the mule is replaced with a stationary minehead that is basically identical and sometimes features defensive turrets. Primary objective will vary depending on what kind of mission you chose. For a simple mining expedition, you just collect X amount of some mineral. Egg hunts involve locating and taking alien eggs from nests. On-site refining missions drop you in a minehead and require you to connect several pump jacks to it and collect a certain amount of basically oil. You need to defend your pipelines and stuff as aliens try to stop you. Salvage operations are where you repair a broken drop pod and use that to get back to the surface. Point extraction requires you to find minerals called quarks, dig them out, and bring them back to a stationary minehead. Escort duty involves escorting a drill to extract an artifact. Elimination is a combat mission where you kill 2 bosses. And industrial sabotage is also a combat mission where you kill only 1 boss, but this time there's hacking involved. Since this game is procedurally generated, each experience will be different. While some extractions might go without a hitch, others might look like this. Yeah, combat in Deep Rock Galactic is pretty good. At first, it's a little weird to get used to because it feels kind of like you're shooting a Nerf gun, but once you get used to that, it's actually really interesting because this game encourages you to think and aim before you shoot. Each enemy has weak points, and there's a dynamic armor system on each enemy. So for example, if you shoot a bug in the head, then the armor on its head will break off. Then if you manage to hit another shot on its head, it'll take extra damage because you've created a weak point. Some enemies are more vulnerable to damage from behind, or to certain damage types, and there are plenty of other video games that have these features, but Deep Rock does the implementation of these features really well, and it leads to a very satisfying combat experience. Deep Rock also encourages you to conserve your ammo, which I like because I know that a lot of the first-person shooters just spoon-feed you ammo the entire time. That's not really fun, you have to actually think. The last thing I'd like to talk about is the sound design and soundtrack for this game, because they're pretty good. Basically, anything happening in the game will make a sound. Enemies emerging from the ground make sounds. These sounds are similar to environmental sounds, but an alert player will be able to notice and be given an advantage. And as for the soundtrack, the dwarves also have dialogue, which is tied to most actions or just occurs randomly, and it adds an extra layer of charm on top of their characters. There are also some other nice things about the sound design. For example, one of the bosses, which is a robot, makes a sort of groaning noise that resembles snoring before it's been alerted to your position. Or how some enemies incorporate melodies that you can recognize as unique to certain enemy types. So with the exception of point extraction, this game is pretty good, and if it goes on sale, I'd recommend you buy it. It is the Steam Summer Sale as of me recording this, so you have no reason not to get it. Just don't play point extraction, don't torture yourself, please. Anyways, like this video if you liked it, install return YouTube dislike if you didn't like it, and yeah.